A couple announcements before we start. Are we all set, Julia? Or Hannah?
We've gone live.
We've gone live. Awesome, thanks, Hannah. Like, we've gone live. I'm like, yeah, gone live. We've gone live. Gone live. So cute. Okay. All right. So a couple announcements before we say our opening prayer and then we meditate. No class next week, right? Because Christmas is Monday. A lot of people are off on Tuesday, and I'll be. Then we resume the following. The other thing is that I want to share with you that in February I'm doing a retreat at Mount Madonna on the topic of my book that just came out called Embodying Tara, 21 Manifestations to Awaken Your Innate Wisdom. And it's a 4-day retreat over President's Weekend. So it's February 15th to the 18th. We'll meditate. We will chant mantra. We'll have some kirtan. I might even have some musicians come and join. And we'll chant some of the melodies that my co-founders of the 21 Taras Collective and I have written and composed. So we will learn also more of the melodic way to chant the mantras. And we'll also hike and practice in nature. There are beautiful redwood trees. It's a classical place founded by Baba Haridas, who was one of a really great Hindu teacher who lived much of his life in silence. I saw him a couple times there at Mount Madonna. It's in the Santa Cruz Hills. So it's like 2 hours from here. I don't know how many acres they have, but 380, full 380. That's cool. And or 360, 380, same thing. 180, 360. Oh yeah. Okay. So but yeah, it's beautiful. Redwoods, you can hike and we'll meditate in nature. There's a spring-fed pond. I don't know if any daring souls were doing cold plunges, but I'm planning on it in February. Yeah. So registration is open. You can find more information on that on my site, which is my name, chandraeaston.com. So that's February 15th to the 18th. Okay. Hannah, do you have any announcements? Maybe we get it out of the way right now. If it's
maybe at the end.
Yeah, your brain's not there. That's fine. That's good. Okay, so let's say our opening prayer. It is at the top of the prayer sheet that you have. It's something we do every class. It's a shloka or stanza devoted to the goddess in the Hindu tradition as Narayani, who is also associated with the Buddhist goddess Tara. That's about which I wrote the book on. So Tara is very close to my heart. This is a prayer I learned from one of my teachers, so we sing it at the beginning of every class. So we'll do 11 repetitions tonight. I'll call and you can repeat so that you'll learn the melody. I'll call you, you can repeat it. The next line, I'll call and you repeat, and so on. And then we'll do 11 times together. The English translation is there for the new folks who want to read more. You can read that on your own. So let's close our eyes and take some deep breaths. And settle into your body and this feeling of literally turning inward, like a rotation. It's called like lodok in Tibetan. It's like turning the mind inward, turning the mind towards the Dharma, turning the mind towards your inner life. And breathe into that space. It's like you're enlivening that space, that terrain that you might not enliven as much as the outer terrain throughout the day. As if there was a map within the whole interior tapestry of your body. Let the breath fill those spaces. Notice if you have any areas of tension and release, holding or tension if you can with the out breath. And in this prayer to Narayani, this image also of turning towards the divine and for refuge, for salvation, but also for a feeling of turning towards your own innate nature. So ultimately, all of these divine expressions of awakening can be found within you. They're aspects of your own being. That's how, at least in the Buddhist and Hindu traditions, they understand and teach this. So it's also that lodok. It's turning towards the divine within you and all around you. And we'll arouse our heartfelt motivation for practice, bodhicitta, spirit of awakening or heart of awakening for the benefit of all beings. We come to the path of practice for our own healing and liberation, but also for the healing and liberation of others. And we can also take this moment to acknowledge the land upon which we sit, Lizjan Aloni land, acknowledging and recognizing that something happened here, colonial rule, and something continues to happen here. And we must not forget that. And let that, in a sense, uplift our commitment of bodhicitta. Wake up to all of these different aspects of injustice around us so that we can help to bring more justice, which is another word for dharma. Dharma means righteous or justice, as well as truth, reality, phenomena. And as we near the solstice, I also would like to presence that in the sense of this. We're beginning to turn towards the light. So that's the other feeling of lodok, of turning towards luminosity, but also turning towards a new phase of light, the coming of longer days. And so we're nearing the end of this kind of like longer night phase. It's a time to turn inward, to nourish ourselves. So we can do that tonight through prayer and meditation. We turn towards Narayani as the goddess, the savioress of all beings. Sharanagata dinarta, Sharanagata dinarta, Paritrana parayane, Paritrana parayane, Sarvasyarti hare devi, Sarvasyarti hare devi, Narayani namostute, Narayani namostute, Sharanagata dinarta, Paritrana parayane, Sarvasyarti hare devi, Narayani namostute, Sharanagata dinarta, Paritrana parayane, Sarvasyarti hare devi, Narayani namostute, Sharanagata dinarta, Paritrana parayane, Sarvasyarti hare devi, Narayani namostute, Sharanagata dinarta, Paritrana parayane, Sarvasyarti hare devi, Narayani namostute, Sharanagata dinarta, Paritrana parayane, Sarvasyarti hare devi, Narayani namostute, Sharanagata dinarta, Paritrana parayane, Sarvasyarti Hare Devi Narayani Namostute. Sharanagata Dinarta Paritrana Parayane. Sarvasyarti Hare Devi Narayani Namostute. Sharanagata Dinarta Paritrana Parayane. Sarvasyarti Hare Devi Narayani Namostute. Sharanagata Dinarta Paritrana Parayane. Sarvasyarti Hare Devi Narayani Namostute. Sharanagata Dinarta Paritrana Parayane. Sarvasyarti Hare Devi Narayani Namostute. Sharanagata Dinarta Paritrana Parayane. Sarvasyarti Hare Devi Narayani Namostute. So as we transition now into the formal sit, let yourself be informal for a moment. Maybe you need to shift. Maybe you need an extra layer. Maybe you need a pillow. Let yourself take a moment to really settle into a more comfortable meditation seat if you need that. Otherwise, stay locked in. And we'll begin to deepen breathing. In terms of the posture, the main point is to have the spine nice and straight, whether you're upright on a cushion or in a chair or lying even down if you need to. The main point is to have the spine straight. Of course, there's a natural curve, the S curve, that's good too, but leaning off to the side or slouching forward. The chest is buoyant and lifted if you're upright. And that allows, they say, when the body is straight, channels are straight, and the prana is more free to move more smoothly, freely through the channels of the body. And when the channels are straight with the prana flowing in a nice balanced way, then the mind naturally flows. The mind is able to settle in its natural state more readily. So let the posture be an outward expression of your inner equipoise and your inner poise. Sitting in meditation is not like sitting and watching a movie. Like it's something special, out of the ordinary. For that reason, we sit with an alert posture, but without tension. So if you notice tension with the out-breath, feel any tension just melting away now, whether it's out of the face or the shoulders, belly, back, hips, feet and the hands. Let your palms face down on the thighs in a comfortable position. Or if you wish, you can take the mudra of meditative equipoise with the right hand resting atop the palm of the left and the two thumbs gently touching. And then rest it. It can be nice to have a blanket underneath the hands to balance that. Let the eyes be closed to begin. And bring the tip of the tongue to rest against the upper palate. The root of the teeth. It helps to close the cycle or the circular uh, movement in the body. Then relax the lower jaw. Relax the muscles of the face, the muscles around and behind the eyes. Shoulder blades are down the back, the chest is slightly lifted, arms relaxed, tailbone soft. So really take this time here to make sure you're in good position to relax more deeply into stillness. And the legs can be in a comfortable cross-legged position. No need to do lotus or half lotus. You can simply cross the feet underneath each knee, or you can have this easy pose, which is one foot in front of the other on the floor, or wider. Find a position and commit to it. Like you set your stake in the earth, claim your space, take your seat. Like the Buddha did so long ago, sit down under the Bodhi, saying, I will not move from this position until I achieve full liberation. Of course, we don't do that, but there's that feeling of taking your seat and committing to your practice. And then what to do with the mind. Essentially nothing in respect to fixing or altering. This practice of shamatha, calm abiding with Dzogchen domain is releasing, releasing the knots, unraveling the mental knots, and allowing the mind to settle into its natural state in its own place, in its own nature. And what is that nature? It's vast, the sky, imbued with awareness, a sense of luminosity. And then the appearances of thoughts coming and going aren't such a big deal. Develop that kind of relationship. It's the nature of the mind to think. It's not a problem. Let thoughts come and go without pushing and pulling on them. And over time, as you release deeply into meditation, they start to push out. Why? Because you're not resisting them. See if you can rest in that broader experience of resting awareness. The breath is your anchor, and feel the inflow of breath as it moves in and out of the body. Let the mind rest upon that rhythm until you don't need that anymore. Notice when the attention is focused outward, remember this phrase of Lojong, meaning to turn the mind back in upon itself and check in on yourself. Okay, you were lost in thought. It's fine, no problem. Just release and return to the flow of the breath in the body and that feeling of spacious, vast, luminous awareness like the sky. It's that inner space in you. And rest in that, stabilizing it. And balancing it, turning inward with a sense of utter release. So it's as if you turn in, the nature of thought, empty of intrinsic existence, something solid about these thoughts, and yet they grab us by the jugular for their life or day. Let them be like a phantom or a mirage, appearing yet empty, dissolving back into the ground within which they came. And then let that experience of the inner space be vast. It's not closed or small or dark and confined. It's actually the inner outer space, the outer inner space. It's vast, unbound by the confines of this physical body. Relax and release all other artifice. Rest from the vantage point of the awareness that pervades all of your experiences, all visions, all sounds, smells, sensations. Rest in that vantage point of awareness that pervades rather than thought itself. And when in doubt, release with the out breath and come back home, back to the breath, and let yourself be. And if you wish, you can gently open the eyes to cast them downwards or keep them closed if you prefer. The practice is the same, settling the mind in its natural state, free of distraction, free of grasping. The anchor of your attention is the space or domain of the mind itself, space in which all thoughts arise and pass. Breath is the background anchor, it's not the foreground. It's always there for you. Your eyes are open, relax yourself with gaze, relax the muscles behind the eyes. And feel free to blink when you need. The eyes will gently get being open and settle, relaxed position. Sometimes the mind needs a little bit more to latch onto in meditation. If you feel the mind is active, and coming back to the breath is very helpful. But even sometimes simply feeling the flow of the in and the out breath can be quite elusive and hard for the mind to hook into. So a technique I'd like to teach you tonight, especially for those who have we can say, creative mind that likes to fantasize or think and dream or be entertained. There's a practice called the 3 Vajra breath, or simply the 3 Vajras. Vajra means adamantine or diamond-like, immutable. And it describes the immutable or adamantine nature of mind. The adamantine, you could say, or enlightened quality of mind. The enlightened adamantine quality of speech. And the adamantine, immutable nature of the body as a body of light. And this is a simple shamatha practice, but not so simple in the sense that it's very profound. And the 3 Vajras are embodied through the sound of Om, Ah, Hum. Om symbolizes the enlightened mind. The Om symbolizes the enlightened body, the light body, luminosity, free of aches and pains. The Ah symbolizes enlightened speech, imbued with bodhicitta and wisdom, compassion and wisdom. The Hung embodies the enlightened mind, your own Buddha nature, your own true ground. So this Vajra recitation of Om for the body, Ah for speech, Hung for mind, rides the breath. And the practice is quite simple. As you breathe in, you internally sound to yourself the sound Om. So you're breathing in. Then at the top of the in-breath, that pause, retention, you sound Ah, A-H. And then as you exhale, you internally sound Hung, H-U-N-G or H-U-M. Either is fine. So breathing in, it's Om. Holding for a moment is Ah. Exhaling is Hum. So you sound that internally so that it vibrates within you. As you breathe in, Om. Holding in for a moment, not too long. Ah. Breathing out, Hum. And let this be your anchor for the mind that likes to think and fantasize and drift off. Let this be the hook that brings it back. The breath is natural, don't force it. It's a natural length in and out breath. You're not visualizing anything. It's more of this quality of the vibratory sound within you. If you find yourself distracted, release the distraction and come back to the Vajra recitation internally. And we'll practice in silence for a while now. Inhaling Om. Holding in slightly Ah. Exhaling Hum. And see if you can let the body be still as much as possible, because when the body is still, the mind can be still. Om. Inhale. Ah. Retention. Hum. Exhale. And now let's imbue our shamatha practice with a bit more heart. A little like a dropping in quickly with a donglen, sending and receiving here as we move into our holiday gatherings. Perhaps we might need a little extra resource there with compassion. And donglen is the practice of sending and receiving. It's a compassion practice where we recognize that others, even our enemies, wish to be happy just like we do. It's just that they might be confused about how to get out of suffering, and they might cause more harm. So even more reason to have compassion for these people. So the idea of tonglen is to breathe in that which you would normally push away, meaning hardship or the suffering of another, and breathe out the kind of healing wish of may you be free from suffering. May you have happiness, whatever internal prayer feels applicable. So you can either work with yourself or another. You can even work with the whole world or a group of people. You might want to feel into what is up for you now. Maybe you've been hard on yourself and you need some self-love, self-care. Maybe you've been feeling angry at a family member or friend. You need to make peace internally with it. Or maybe you're just heartbroken with the events of the world that you read or see in the news or hear about through friends. We can take all of this onto the path of tonglen, the sending and receiving with the breath. So bringing to mind whatever object, whatever you'd like to work with, self, other, the world, you name it. And feel that you can breathe in, take away that suffering in the form of a smoky texture that draws directly into that bodhicitta heart at the center of your chest, an orb of light like the sun, and it transforms, purifies that, and then breathe out with the exhalation, a cool, healing breeze of liberation. May you be free from strife, free of anger, free of suffering, whatever it is. So the inhale is the compassion practice of taking the suffering in, purifying, transforming it at that bodhicitta heart, and then breathing out that transformation into healing. May you be well. May you be free from suffering. Make up your own prayer and simply breathe with this, inhaling and exhaling. Let it be intuitive here. You're turning towards that which you would normally push away. If you've been hating on someone, breathe that hatred into the heart, transform it, and send out understanding, patience, love, well wishes, whatever that is. This is alchemical here, the language of the heart. Let go of the struggle. If you've been critical of yourself or having an internal challenge of depression, anxiety, you name it, then breathe that in. Breathe that suffering into that luminous orb of light at your heart. And breathe out spaciousness, understanding, acceptance, whatever feels good. Let this be intuitive and let it be personal. And with each in and out breath, feel either yourself or others or the world become more and more free of hardship, free of that heaviness. Like a prayer, may it be so. Even seeing it in your mind's eye. Make that prayer. May you be free of suffering. May the violence stop. May the wisdom increase. May liberation from suffering and the confines of all of those structures that keep people down fall away. May people be free of suffering, animals, seen and unseen. Make that personal prayer. This is the time for that. It's time for prayer and turning towards that inner light. Somehow bringing a sense of light and buoyancy within and around you. May the hungry be fed, may the cold be warmed, the downtrodden be lifted up, imprisoned be freed, suppressed be left to do and be who they are meant to be. And that means you too. Let yourself be free here. May I be free from suffering. May I be free of my self-imposed limitation. May I taste the nectar of my true nature. Make these intuitive prayers for yourself and for others. And in the spirit of bringing more joy into our collective space in the world, I'd like to end the meditation with a prayer to Krishna. Krishna is all about love. He's the playful trickster, but the one who brings joy and love to beings. I've chanted this before. You may know it, you may not, but you'll catch on. So follow along. We'll sing for about 5 minutes, 7 minutes or so. Basically, this chant is singing to, in a joyful way, singing to Krishna as the cowherd. He's known as the cowherd Gopala. And he brings joy to his gopis, his devotees, and all beings around the world and beyond. So you can connect with Krishna not as this kind of blue flute playing, young person of myth, but as love, as love. Krishna Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nandala. Krishna Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nandala. Join me. Krishna Govinda, Govinda, Gopala Nandala. 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 Krishna Govinda Govinda Gopalananda La. Krishna Govinda Govinda Gopalananda La. Krishna Govinda Govinda Gopalananda La. Listen to the next part. Gopalananda Lala, Gopalananda La, Gopalananda Lala, Gopalananda La. Okay. Gopalananda Lala, Gopalananda La. Gopalananda Lala, Gopalananda La. Listen again. Gopalananda Lala, Gopalananda La, Gopalananda Lala, Gopalananda La. Gopalananda Lala, Gopalananda La, Gopalananda Lala, Gopalananda La, Gopalananda Lala, Gopalananda La, Gopalananda Lala, Gopalananda La. Next one. Krishna Govinda Govinda Gopalananda La. 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 Part 2. Gopalananda La, 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 Gopalananda La. Krishna Govinda Govinda 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 Gopalananda La. Gopalananda La, Gopalananda La, Gopalananda La, Gopalananda La. Gopalananda La, Gopalananda La, Gopalananda La, Gopalananda La. Krishna Govinda Govinda Gopalananda La. Krishna Govinda Govinda Gopalananda La. Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai, Jai,
Jai, Jai, Jai, Jai. Oh, I figured some holiday cheer was in order, you know? Oh, yes. I love Krishna. I'm Buddhist, but I'm a Krishna devotee. That's for sure. He's good stuff. Yes, yes, yes. All right, take a moment to stretch your knees if you need to. You can even stand up and fold forward. Take about a minute to take care of our bodies for the last little segment of class. We've got about 27 more minutes. Go into the next slogan of the mind training. Gopala, Gopala, Devaki Nandana Gopala. You know that? Gopala, Gopala, Devaki Nandana Gopala. Devaki Nandana Gopala, Devaki Nandana Gopala, Devaki Nandana. Come on, Buddhists. Listen up. Akinandana Gopala, 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 Devakinandana Gopala, Gopala. You can sing Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala. Devaki Nandana Gopala, Devaki Nandana Gopala. Ah, there's your intermission. There's your interlude. Often when I teach in Buddhist centers, they're not used to chanting so much, so they get a little like, oh, we're singing or chanting? Oh, we can clap? Like it gets a little fun. I'm not saying you're like that, but it can be like that sometimes. Like, yeah, come on, you guys. That's what other, traditions have. Maybe a little bit more in spades, I guess you could say, or lack of a better word. They have a bit more of that devotional side, which I love. Either whether it's bhakti or Hindu tradition or, the church in any form. I think that we can all bring the voice into our practice as a way to break up some of the stagnancy that can happen in our life, in our meditation practice. So a lot of you who've been coming regularly know that I like to chant. So, okay, here we have, tonight we are on the 22nd slogan of the mind training. And the last few slogans in particular have been kind of coming in pairs. So I want to just take a moment and review the slogan from last time, which was 2 weeks ago. Because last week we did a different practice, feeding the demons. Yeah. So, who wants to read slogan number 21? It's in your handout. This is a handout you can take home with you. It's from the text that Hannah's holding in her hand. Can you hold that up? This is a really wonderful text, and it's called "The Great Path of Awakening." Right? Yeah, by Jamgon Kongtrul. It's his commentary to the 59 slogans. So at the back of that book, I believe, is where I got these consolidated one-liner slogans printout. So if you want to read, that's a really good, a friend of mine went on retreat once and he said, can you recommend one book that I should take on retreat? And I said, take that one. And it was great. I wondered, how's that going to, is it enough? It's pretty thin. Maybe I should have recommended something else. But he came out of retreat saying, that book, encapsulated everything, for him. And that really helped him on retreat. So that's a special one, The Great Path of Awakening by Jamgon Kongtrul. Okay, so who wants to read 21, number 21? Out loud, please. Don't be shy. Come on. Come on.
Always maintain only a joyful mind.
Right on. Thank you. Good. What's your name?
Soraya.
Soraya. Welcome. Your first time in class. Good. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for not being shy, breaking the ice. Good. Always maintain only a joyful mind. Well, we talked about this the last time. This is pretty like, what? It can on the surface seem kind of overly simplistic, right? always maintain only a joyful mind. Well, easy for you to say, you know? So even though it might seem simplistic at its surface, there's so much, suffering in the world. Of course, it's not easy to always maintain a joyful mind. And there's nothing worse than being told what to do, especially like, be happy. You're like, fuck you. But, like, don't tell me what to do. I'll be miserable. But this slogan isn't about pretending to be happy, right? This slogan is about encouraging us to gently prod us and remind us to have a perspective on life. So it doesn't mean that we don't care about things, but what it means is that we can loosen our grip, that we hold things so tightly sometimes, and we can keep our sense of humor even when things aren't going well. Because as you know, the mind training slogans, what is the main thrust of mind training slogan? Right, cultivating bodhicitta. And how do we do that? There are a few ways.
Well, probably considering others is like step one.
Yeah.
For me, at least.
Yeah. Right, thinking of others. So not always thinking about myself, right. Thinking about you and you guys. Not to the point of like a bleeding heart or idiot compassion, but like, okay, you wish to be free of suffering just like me, even though might not know you or care even, or, people, our whole human community, they share that in common. And that's what His Holiness the Dalai Lama often says, is we all share that wish to be free of suffering, to be happy. Yeah. And that we have in common. Me and Trump, we have that in common, unfortunately. Like fortunately or unfortunately, like you and your enemy, you have those things in common. So that's our common ground. We all wish to be free of suffering. We all wish to be happy. So yes, that's a very important aspect. But also, the main, if somebody were to ask you, what is Lojong or mind training all about? Yes, it's about cultivating compassion, but it's also about learning to transform everything you experience in your life onto the path of awakening. So transform all your joys and all your sorrows onto the path of awakening. And so here it's saying cultivate happiness, basically, always try to maintain a joyful mind, even in the face of adversity. Even in the face of adversity, take it as a challenge. Like, how can I generate greater compassion for that annoying person, or that, person who just cut me off in the street? Like, instead of being like, road rage, we can breathe, send them with your tonglen, breathe out patience, breathe out, like, you've got plenty of space, buddy, slow down. I don't want you to get in a crash, like, turn it. So on the other hand, then, so now we're coming to tonight's slogan, right? Which also speaks to this theme of bringing it all to the path, all our joys and sorrows onto the path. So now someone else, who would like to read slogan number 22? Go for it.
If you can practice even when distracted, you are well trained.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so again, if you can practice even when distracted, you are well trained. This also speaks to transforming, especially adversity, onto the path, because distraction is adversity, right? Like, you sit in a 45-minute meditation and you're like, that's adverse if I'm stuck. I know I want to drop in. I know how good meditation can feel when it locks in. And here I am sort of like hovering above it, right? I can't quite drop in. That's suffering, right? That's a form of suffering. That's a form of adversity, right? So can you even practice when that's happening? And what does that mean? That means take it as the path. Oh, I'm distracted. Oh, instead of hating on myself here, or feeling frustrated and making things worse, can I open to it? Okay, I'm distracted. Oh man, okay, I'm judging myself. That really sucks, or I'm disappointed. Here I drove all the way here tonight and I'm sitting here thinking about my to-do list, right? Like I'm wasting my time. Instead of being all like critical of yourself, turn towards it and feel, oh, wow, okay, you're distracted. Let's open some space around that. And can I even practice and be mindful even within the experience of an absence of mindfulness? You know, can I be mindful in the experience of frustration? Can I be present and even allow more space and patience around the hardships that I experience in my life, not just distraction, but everything else? So again, transforming adversity onto the path. So the whole point of Lojong practice is that. And this is really where the rubber hits the road. I mean, a lot of us know that it's easy to practice when things are cool. Your body's feeling great. By the way, I'm sitting up for the longest time I've ever sat up in this class in the last 6, 7, 8 months. So I'm just have to say I'm really stoked. Could sit for that whole meditation. Oh, thank God. Man, for those of you who are new tonight, I had back surgery almost 3 months ago. I have had nerve pain and I've had to meditate lying down, which is fine. But so rejoicing in that, yay, that wasn't so adverse. But some days we are feeling pain in our body. Some days we are feeling challenged. So can we practice even on those days? That's what this means of practicing when distracted, so to speak. And this is where the rubber hits the road. So a bodhisattva, right? A person who is committed to waking up for the benefit of others, not just oneself, but for others, who wants to devote in some way their life to being of service in the world. We're not bodhisattvas, because we're all bodhisattvas in training, right? I mean, that's why we came to the class. So we might not be there yet, but we might feel like, yeah, in some way I am, that feels good to me. I want that. So it's said that in the commentaries to the slogan, a bodhisattva is not someone who wallows in self-pity, not someone who necessarily gets stuck in depression, although I think we've all gotten stuck in depression before. It's okay. I'm not saying that's bad. But whining or acting out in rage, like it's about starting to discipline yourself to avoid those types of, at least kind of getting too enmeshed in those types of behaviors. But that doesn't mean we need to be perfect. What I think it's Pema Chodron who says this, is that what we need to do is pause there when we start to feel the hardship, the distraction, the pain, the rage, the depression. Pause there and feel it. That's it. That's really an act of compassion right there. Pause there and feel it. And feel what's true for you. Oh, wow, my heart is tied up in knots right now. Okay, can you feel it? And can you breathe into it? Yeah. And notice, okay, where do I hit my limit with things? Where do I get to the point where I feel like I can't take it anymore? And when you find yourself there, rather than trying to fix it right away or smoke pot, drink alcohol, turn on TV, whatever you do, stay there. And actually, like, this is bodhisattva training, like, be in that prison that you feel yourself in. And if you can bring mindfulness and a bit of heart and spacious, like a tenderness to that space, that prison starts to fall away, because it's a feeling that you have that feels like a prison. But if you can bring a bit of patience or even just pause and bring awareness to it, that tightness starts to loosen up and open up. And it's that brilliant act of turning towards. It seems like, so obvious, but it's not. Because we're really not taught so much to do that unless you were lucky and had great parents. And that is this quality of yielding. A teacher of mine used to talk about this. This practice of yielding versus exerting effort, right? So how do we know when to do what? It's not always easy. And when I first heard her talk about yielding, I was kind of turned off by it. I thought, I don't want to yield. I don't want, it feels like surrendering in the bad sense of the word, like giving up, yielding. But when she nuanced it, it made more sense to me, which is like, when you're caught in a tug of war with either yourself or someone else, but you have kind of this Donglen moment or a meditative, mindful moment where you realize, wow, I'm really caught in something that isn't really even there, right? That kind of moment of having almost like a big, greater perspective and actually being willing to not be right or know what's going on. That's a quality of yielding. Right? Can I yield to this moment? That might even just mean just stepping back for a minute and stop exerting the pressure to fix it, do something. Can you yield and step back and take an out breath there and feel? And almost like, surrender, but not in a powerless way, but let go of the rope in the tug of war dynamic. Because it takes two to tug of war, right? But you realize, if I just let go, I'm not in the war anymore. I don't have to be in that game. So in a sense, that's yielding. That's the feeling of yielding. And then, of course, there are other times we need to exert effort. Be like, I've got to apply the antidote. I need to go to therapy or get my kid therapy who's spinning out. I need to make a move, do something. So it's good to know when to do both. It's not all about yielding, of course, right? But what she also, like this teacher, Jennifer Wellwood, would say, is what's interesting is over time, this capacity to yield in an intelligent way actually begins to grow more and more as you start to feel into it. And how does that feel for you? And that when, this is more subtle body stuff, this is a bit more esoteric, but I have found it to be true, that when we learn how to yield to the truth, like yield to what's really there, like sometimes we have to do that in the quiet of our own room, not like on the highway, but when we can really be quiet and yield to what's going on internally and make some space for the truth to come and be present, the subtle body starts to open up. Because it's like the mind is aligning with reality. And when the mind aligns with reality of what's true for you in that moment, the body opens up. The subtle body begins to, it's hard to describe. You have to kind of feel it for yourself. But it's kind of like when you feel two things that are disparate go, and then the energy starts to flow. The channels are open and the energy flows and you feel like, okay, I'm balanced, I'm aligned, I'm not in discord, right? And unfortunately, a lot of us are used to being in discordant states. It's kind of like the norm. But when we feel it, we know it, even if we haven't felt it for decades, even if we've never felt it before, you know it when it happens. You're like, it's kind of like that central channel locks in. But it's not just about samadhi and being in the central channel. It's like all the channels opening, the peripheral and the central ones. Okay, but that comes with time. So these two slogans aren't meant to be practiced only in happy and easy times. These slogans are for now, like right now. They are meant for difficult times. So in a nutshell, the first one that we did, number 21, always maintain a joyful mind, means that if you regard everything that arises in your life as fuel to wake you up, then you can remain cheerful. Remember the story of Atisha, the great Mahayana teacher who finally went up to Tibet to give teachings on mind training? And he took his attendant, his attendant, who was a pain in the ass. Basically, he was very irritable. He complained a lot. He was cantankerous, they say. And when Atisha came up in Tibet, he arrived, he's settling in, he's beginning to do teachings, and he has this annoying attendant. The story goes that some of his students said, "Why did you bring this guy with you from India? He's horrible." And he said, "Oh, but he helps me practice patience. I brought him on purpose. He helps me practice patience." So if you're annoyed with your kids, that's for you. The story's for you or anyone else in your life. You may never have kids, but you'll have plenty of annoying people in your life, I'm sure. Okay, and then the second one, if you can practice while you are distracted, you are well trained, right? That's number 22. Basically, it says that you're well trained if you can do that, if you can remain cheerful in the face of adversity. And it's not about a fake smile. You know what I mean? It's about having perspective. It's about not, samsara doesn't owe us anything, right? And immature people don't understand that. And they walk around in a tantrum going, complaining and whining about stuff. But when you get more mature, you realize life doesn't owe me shit, actually. So it's really about how I work with the circumstances. And that's why Lojong is so powerful. It really teaches us how to be mature, how to be a mature practitioner. And realize, you know what? The only certainty is the uncertainty of the time of death. The only thing that's constant is impermanence. That's the sobriety and also the creative genius of Dharma teaching. It's hard to hear, but then over time you realize it's making me a really awesome person, because I can be wise for my 15-year-old who's being bullied at school, right? Like, how do I address that? How do I talk to him? Yeah, that's autobiographical. It's not fun. But then I start talking to him about Dharma and his ears perk up. I feel him open, like, oh, medicine, right? Medicine for this poor soul. He's going through a lot of hardship. So these teachings teach us how to be spiritual warriors, they say, right? That's the Bodhisattva path. So we can actually use distraction to bring us back to practice. Use distraction to bring you back to the present moment. So if you are able to practice with distraction and everything else, then you are trained well. Integrating everything onto the path and stay awake to it, not numb out over it. So this reminds us to practice Tonglen, meaning you inhale the hardship, you exhale the gift, the healing. I wish you well. Just leave me alone. You can also make that prayer too, like, I'm saluting you from a distance. Tonglen is great for those people you want to salute from a distance. You don't have to go over there and get up in their business. You can be like, you can stay over there, but I'm going to get really good at sending you love from over here. And it makes you a better person. Okay, so, yeah. I think it's Pema Chodron who says, in a nutshell, I'm paraphrasing, don't cling to external things for your happiness, but rather drop below the surface and find the wellspring of your basic goodness. Drop below the surface and find the wellspring of your good cheer. Yeah. And I think a lot of us know that some of the people it's the people who've gone through some of the greatest injustice and hardship have that resiliency more than others. Like I've talked about living in the Tibetan refugee settlements in India, happiest people I've ever been around. And I grew up in California, privilege, It's obvious, It's not the external circumstances that are going to bring us happiness. So how do we cultivate good cheer? With grit, Don't resist what's unpleasant, they say, because resistance causes pain. Instead, lighten up, relax around your resistance. Relax around the resistance. Because resistance to the truth of what is actually more painful than the simple experience of that thing, whether it's anger, sadness, guilt, shame, right? It's the resistance that makes it more painful. That's more painful. So how do you relate to reality? We can't always change reality, or external reality at least. So it comes down to how you relate to it. Do we struggle or do we work with things? Do we take it as an opportunity? That's why that phrase, always maintain a joyful mind, that's what that's meant to point us towards. Not being fake, shiny. Okay, so last thing is relax and let go into what's called the ordinary mind. So Buddha mind's not some lofty thing that's so unattainable. They say it's actually the ordinary mind. It's our natural state. And in that way, it's not a big deal. And in that way, often I'd say like rest in the vantage point of awareness that pervades thought. It's like the air we breathe. It's always there. It's always here. That's your basic goodness, your Buddha mind. It's not something you have to climb Mount Everest to find. You know what I mean? It's like it's here right now. You are all resting in nature of mind. It's just a matter of whether you know it or not. And that natural mind then is at ease in itself. So stay awakened to that open, spacious, but so ordinary and ever-present mind. And then keep a sense of humor and enjoyment, even in the midst of challenges and adversity. Be curious and let distraction bring you back. Let distraction be your guru. Guru as distraction. Distraction as guru. Any questions, comments, rebuttals? Yes, Ariane.
So I really like what you said about having to balance the effort with
Yielding. Uh-huh.
That's something I've really noticed too. But one thing that I just find immensely frustrating are the moments where it seems like I can do neither. Like it seems like there's nothing I can do to make this situation better. But at the same time, it doesn't really seem like I can yield either. Like I mean, there's sort of a paradox. You can't really try. You're not supposed to try to yield,
Yeah.
but it feels like there are moments where there's really nothing I can do to practice, and this results in a sort of negative loop of feeling kind of bad, like feeling almost guilty that I was not capable of doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it is sort of a comment or a question of like, how do you deal with that, this feeling of helplessness?
Yeah.
I really couldn't do anything at that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of us have that. How many feel familiar, resemble that remark? Yeah. See, I don't know if you looked around, Ariane. Raise your hand again. I mean, maybe it's helpful to see that like maybe half the room feels like that. Oh man, feeling pressure to give a good answer. See, in a way, that's that, right? So for me as a teacher, I'm getting a question that actually touches on one of my soft spots, right? Okay, so I can either exert or yield. Or if I can't really do that, because it's not just two choices, right? There's the middle path, which is humor. It's like just state the obvious and then see if there's some humor in that can help shake things up a little bit. Like, oh, okay, now, now I can have more space around that. Now that felt like a little opening to yielding. Yielding not as surrendering, but a yielding to feeling the deeper truth of like, wow, I'm actually like the frustration, the impotence is masking a deep sadness that makes me feel incapable of doing anything. Okay, so then can I just be with that? It's about, can you be with that? So, okay, so if you find yourself frustrated with yourself because you couldn't yield or exert, be with that. Be with that. Okay, I'm frustrated. Breathe into it. Where is the frustration in your body? Like when I'm actually going to ask you, when you feel that feeling, where is it in your body?
Well, I think it depends on the source.
Okay, but like right now, do you feel like if you can bring it back up, like right now, it's just on a whim, just to go with me here.
Well, okay, so I think a common feeling is almost like a numbness, like
Mm-hmm.
almost like my whole body and mind. There's almost like a static
Yeah. Uh-huh.
that isn't really blossoming into anything.
Right. Yeah.
And
So
it's generally, I think, more like a
lack of feeling, right? So where do you feel the lack of feeling? Where do you feel the numbness? Because that even numbness is something, right?
Well, I think that a lot of it.
Don't think, feel it. I'm asking you, where is it in your body?
I mean, I struggle with like the neck and shoulder
Cool.
area.
Yeah, that's you keep. Yeah, I've noticed you were bringing your hands there, so that makes sense. So then, you could then pause and say, you can even bring your hands to it and say, okay, I'm feeling numb and stuck in my heart and my chest and my throat, and breathe. So the point is to bring the breath into it and go, okay, what's there? What happens when you breathe into that? I'm not going to put you on the spot. Like, you don't have to do the whole process, but I'm just wanted, like, this is for the sake of everybody in the room, is like, enough is to feel that, breathe into it. And sometimes then the yielding could start, perhaps. It's in these moments, it's more about the yielding opening up, because it's not about going and exerting yourself. It's more about like, I'm soft. This is more of a yin state of like softening into like, okay, it's a heartbreak. Oh, I'm cut off here. But what it is this is a lid clamping down on the heart that wants to do or say or yell or holler or cry. Okay, so can I yield to that? Can I yield to that? Can I yield down into the deeper feeling? And then breathe with that. And then clarity starts to come. That's when the channels start to open up. You know what I mean? Because you're coming home. You're not in your head anymore. You're in your body and you're feeling it. And then the body starts to open up. So that's more of that energetic feeling of yielding. But it has to happen with the pause. It's the pause. What's really happening here? Drop out of the head, the commentary around it, and the judgment around it. What's here right now? And then see what your body tells you. It's about the body. The other question you could ask is, what would that numbness or that heartbreak say if it had a voice? You could just say, oh, it's fucking pissed, Okay, yeah. And then things start to move. Sometimes it's a real small shift with people like us who tend to go numb. We freeze and we go numb. And then we don't know what the fuck to do because we're stuck in our head and we're cut off from our heart. We're cut off from our heart. We're cut off from our belly. And the belly is instinct. Right? So then the three centers start to wake up and then you become Wonder Woman. Okay, we're at time. But yeah, appreciate your question. Yeah. Okay, let's take a moment and close, dedicate the merit for this broken heart or the angry head, whatever you've got, just, turn towards it. Pause and turn in and say, hi, I see you. And I'm going to dedicate the merit for your healing. And let that extend out for all beings who share these types of feelings with you, who's basically everybody, one point or another. And I'm going to ring the bell once and let the sound help you feel your prayers radiating out around the world in all directions. It's dedication of merit, positive energy for the benefit of all beings everywhere. Om Mani Padme Hum. Have a wonderful holiday time. I hope it's good and safe and healthy. Stay strong and do your practice, like, okay, can you practice in distraction when things are hard? Can you transform the holiday meal into the path of awakening? It's called digestion. Okay, I'll sit up here for a few minutes if people have any questions or new folks want to come up and introduce yourself. I'd like to meet you and have some tea in the back and not in the back, in the front, in the lobby, and make new friends, build community if you want to do that. It's a nice thing about this community. And Hannah, what do you have to say?
Yeah, we are taking a holiday break most of next week, so all the regular classes are not meeting. Just check out the calendar on berkeleyolympic.org/events to see what's happening, what's not. So yeah, we're not meeting in this class next week.